Hello, Namaskar, welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis. My name is Juggi Bhasin. To become a subscriber, all you have to do is to press that red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. Would also really appreciate if you could like this video and share this video with your friends. Alright, so what is the real reason why we are so offended by these protests by this political party which happened at Bharat Mandapam yesterday? Leave aside the political reason. There were a lot of political reasons which were given by both sides, by the ruling party and by the opposition, why the protests happened or why they should not have happened. Just leave aside the political reasons for a moment. But there's something which is very uncomfortable. There is something which is very, very undesirable about these protests which have offended us. And yet, I still haven't seen too much of decoding or too much of analysis as to what really has gone deep down and offended the people of India about these protests. And therefore, I will endeavor to, in this podcast, to try and decode that thing which is offending so deeply all of us in this country, irrespective of our political affiliations or irrespective of whichever side of the aisle we are. That does not really matter. But there are some fundamental reasons why we feel so strongly about these protests which have happened yesterday at Bharat Mandapam. Let me start by saying that what really this entire AI summit was all about, and that will give us an answer basically why these protests should never have happened out there. The AI summit at Bharat Mandapam, besides being obviously one of the most important mega international events of the year, was actually an event which was creating a safe space, mark my words, a safe space, almost like a bubble for the meeting of minds of technologists, of AI personnel, of students, of engineers, of the movers and shakers of industry to gather together to come for what we call confabulations or meetings, exchange of ideas, commercial interests of inking of deals. That was the idea. And it was all supposed to be done, and it has been done to a large extent in a safe space, which was completely immune or cut off from protests or other kind of external factors. That is the point we really need to understand about what this AI summit was all about. And when these protests happened inside this safe space, then it was a major violation of the safe space. That is what really is offending all of us, that how could such a thing even happen? Yes, certainly the pride of the country, the humiliation we face in front of the international media, all those are important points. But the real important point is that how can a safe space be breached by vested interests? So let's keep that thing in mind. Number two, who are the people inside this safe space or in this bubble? These people were not political activists. These were not ordinary citizens. They were a people who have a certain interest in artificial intelligence. That means technologists, as I said, and lots of students, a lot of youngsters. There is a story going around of this 8-year-old young boy who was a speaker who stole the show actually at the AI summit. Those kind of students, school students, people who had, who had actually, I think they have paid money, and also people who had paid commercially money to set up stalls inside the safe space. Please remember that. It was a commercial enterprise. It was not only just, thrown open for everybody in the public to come. You had to, you register yourself, maybe pay a particular fee or something, and therefore you were allowed entry into that particular bubble or into that safe space. And people had commercial interests, and therefore, the first thing which really offended us about these protests were that these people were violating the commercial interest, the paid interest of all these people who had spent good money in taking up stalls out there. Their business was disrupted, the work was disrupted, the meetings were disrupted. That's the first big objection that why people are so mad about these protests which have happened out there. So keep that in mind, commercial space and then the commercial interests of the people. But is that the only thing which is offending us? Not really. There are 2 or 3 other points which I want to bring out which are very, very important, which are deeply offending India as why these protests happen in the first place. As I said, that look at the composition. We have to understand the composition of the people. These are not, as I said, these are not people in a political rally or in the Ramlila Maidan or at Jantar Mantar, where protests happen, or even for that matter, even Parliament, where our lawmakers meet, where you have every right to protest, you have every right to show your dissension, your opposition to a lot of things. You have every right to do that. But this was not that. As I said, this was a commercial, this was also a hub, a safe space hub for the meeting of minds, of trajectory as to how to go forward in AI. And as it is becoming more and more clear that there are 2 models, there is the Chinese model, the American model, but India is trying a 3rd model for the global south where AI benefits not only big industry, but AI benefits not only corporate processes, but it benefits agriculture, it benefits us in medicine, in medical processes, in things which are very important for the ordinary Indian. That was what the summit was for all about. And therefore, understand that the composition or the entire architecture or the structure of the Safe Space AI Summit was not meant for politics, even though this particular party keeps on saying that where do we protest? We are not allowed to protest in Parliament. That's the argument of this political party. But the point being that you can protest anywhere. If you think you're not being allowed in Parliament, go and protest on the streets. Go and protest at Jantar Mantar. Go and protest anywhere you want to. But this is something which I'm just using that term as people who had paid money out there. We had paid money. We had stalls out there. We had interests out there. Commercial interests, intellectual interests, and you violated all of them. So that's the second big point you need to remember. My third big objection to this protest at Bharat Mandapam was the method they deployed. And I'm not talking of the half-naked process or the banyan protests or the West's protest, which I'm talking about. That, of course, is a very objectionable thing. But I'll tell you the method. The method is, frankly, very, very dangerous. It was almost like, and I'm using this word with a lot of responsibility, it was almost like infiltration. It was almost like a quasi soft kind of a terrorist kind of a sneaking in. You enrolled yourself, you went through the QR code, and then what did you do? These 10 people, they went inside. They went to the washrooms, they changed, and then they put on these t-shirts or they took off their clothes, and in their banyans or vests or whatever, they went outside and started protesting. Now, here's the point. They protested by doing this banyan thing and all that, but there are a lot of protests which have happened, similar kind of protests earlier, outside venues obviously, where people have used paint sprays, they have used all kinds of gimmickry, and here's my point. There are this entire mandapam is packed with stalls. It is packed with people. It is packed with youngsters. It is packed with students. It is packed with people who have frankly no idea what you are about to do. Assuming if these protests had gone out of hand and there had been stampede, what would have happened? Innocent people could have died. Supposing if they had spray painted, and sprays are paints are chemicals, supposing if it had caught fire, a stall could have caught fire. What could have happened? Countless people could have died. Anything could have happened. You are using what I call quasi-terrorist methods to sneak in. You camouflage your identity. This is how infiltrators, extremists, terrorists get in, as we know, in security camps. This is the same method which they deployed to get in, to fool, to hoodwink security, and then you carry out your agenda. What is the difference? Yes, you did your banyan protest and all that, but you could have carried out a terror attack also. That also is a possibility. We can't rule that out. So that's why I'm saying these protests were extremely extremely dangerous. We are lucky we actually got away with just this banyan protest. Anything could have happened. The biggest possibility which I was fearful about, that it could have led actually to a stampede. Anything could have happened in excitement. People just lose control. They could have started running all over the place. And whether people blame security, but let me say this out here. How much of personnel can Delhi police also deploy? You can't deploy security at every stall or something. It's not possible. People have to self-regulate. And if this is what happens, this is how people get in, infiltrate, and carry out their divisive, devious agendas, then it could have led to anything. And that is my single biggest objection, that in a safe space, you with deliberate intent, and this is not innocent, this is not on the spur or something, this was deliberately planned like an operation where these people would go in and carry out these protests, and using the name of Gandhi, that Gandhi was this thing and all that, the messaging. And that's my fourth point. What is the big messaging which you're giving to the world? The big messaging you are giving, and I'm going to use a Hindi colloquium. It doesn't sound very pleasant, but I still have to use it to make you understand what I'm talking about. The messaging you are giving to the whole world was that we are not an AI-enabled country, or we are an AI aspirational country. We are literally a bhuka, nanga country. This is what they were trying to do. Nanga in terms of when they took off their clothes, when they took off they were parading themselves in banyans. Bhuka is because they were protesting against the so-called Indo-US trade deal, which, by the way, now is literally in abeyance because of the Supreme Court of America having struck down the tariffs. So that by itself is an issue which has completely gone out of the window, if you really ask me. But this is what you are trying to project. So on all parameters which I've given, in terms of safe space, in terms of the composition of the venue, of the kind of people who are coming, in terms of the method, it could have led to, as I said, a stampede. It could have led to any kind of an incident, a fire incident, anything could have happened. And then the projection that we are a bhuka nanga country. This was the big problem which I think occurred yesterday. And deep down, we have been trying to articulate to ourselves as Indians that what is causing us this huge uneasiness. Is it the fact that our prestige has been, it has been deflected? It is the fact that what we wanted to focus on, our success or our aspirations, that particular projection, there has been some denting in that. Yes, certainly. Those are important points also. But I think what we really need to articulate is the fact, the real danger, not only of what could have happened, but what might start happening in the future. Because if people are allowed to get away with this kind of, as I call it, quasi anarchy-filled activities, which are, if you ask me, kind of a short step towards terrorism in a certain way. Please remember, I'm taking you back many years back when the famous Munich massacre, when Palestinian terrorists, they infiltrated, they posed as athletes, and then they massacred the Israelis. They did something in a way similar. You dress up, you behave like the people going to an international event or something, and then you carry out your agenda. This is what it was all about. So we need to be very careful what these people could do in the future also, because this will just be the beginning. It's absolutely okay that in these international exhibitions or international events, you have a space which is given outside where people can protest. It's absolutely kosher. It's absolutely fine. But inside, as I said, the space is inviolable. It is safe. It cannot be breached. It's like a bubble. It has to be, that sanctity has to be maintained, and anybody who breaks that sanctity has to be pulled up, and not only pulled up, but dealt with extremely firmly by the law. That is the demand of the people of India. And so on this note, I come to the end of this podcast. I hope you liked it. You like my show, do subscribe to it. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.